experienced true love before, it can be powerful and intoxicating.
She was missing the passion. She was missing a relationship.
She meets this man who's charming. He sweeps her off her feet.
But the fear of losing him can cause a woman to hold on extra tight, even after uncovering his dark side.
He had relationships with all of them, and he would instruct them to do various things.
He pulls out a gun and starts shooting. And I'm like, why is this happening and what's going on?
When you finally found the missing piece to your happiness, how far would you go to keep it?
This case was shocking, it's strange, it's abnormal.
They had this sort of unbending loyalty, this absolute devotion to this man.
Tuesday, September 1st, 2015, Miami Lakes, Florida. The sun has just risen in this quaint suburban town, just 30 minutes northwest of Miami.
The center of the city is kind of like a town square where you have the movie theater, you have a bunch of different shops and restaurants, and then after that, it's just mostly residential homes.
But even this picturesque community isn't immune to big city crimes.
On September 1st of 2015, Miami-Dade Police Department received several calls about a shooting.
One of them is from a 54-year-old woman named Veronica Moss.
Veronica Moss says that she's in the parking lot of her workplace.
I said, okay, there's been a shooting. I gave her the address, and she was like, well, how many people were shot? I said, 2 of us were shot, and that me and my coworker were injured. The same fire rescue and police.
Veronica identifies the other victim as 21-year-old Brittany Payton.
Veronica is standing near her friend with a gunshot wound to her left thigh. Brittany is lying on the ground with gunshot wounds to both her legs.
Police and medical personnel responded to the scene and found both the victims breathing, but were bleeding from their wounds.
Brittany Payton was a mild-mannered young woman raised in the greater Miami area.
Brittany was kind of to herself, definitely not a boisterous personality. I had the impression that Brittany was sheltered.
Her parents were together for more than 10 years, but called it quits when Brittany was in middle school.
I think that it was a tense relationship between the parents. There was definitely tumultuousness or some level of maybe chaos on Brittany's mother's side.
Brittany's mother, Kendra, became part of a community that practiced voodoo.
In that community, there's references to, voodoo mamas and witches and things like that. And certain things seemed normal or expected of her in that community.
This caused strife with Brittany's parents.
It became difficult, and there was definitely a push and pull. I think certainly her father did everything in his power to keep some level of normalcy in her life.
Less than 2 years after Brittany's parents broke up, her mother dove headfirst into a new relationship with a man named Samuel Preval.
They had 2 children together.
Despite a rocky home life, Brittany was able to get out on her own. She held jobs in retail before landing one at a call center, where she met Veronica Moss.
I had just got a car, and she was catching the bus So I told her, hey, look, I'll give you a ride. You don't live that far away from me, so you can ride with me because I know how the bus is. And she's a young girl. You know, at the time, she was only in her early 20s, and people are crazy out there.
As they regularly carpooled, Veronica and Brittany became good friends.
I believe that Brittany did look up to me at that time. We would talk about different things, and I told her about my kids and everything, and it was good.
But now, in the parking lot of their workplace, Veronica and Brittany are still in shock as they receive medical treatment. Veronica is able to give police a rundown of the morning's events.
I arrived at my job with Miss Brittany, and as we were exiting our vehicle, a silver Ford Mustang pulled up, the windows rolled down, and I was getting my bags out the back seat. And the guy started saying something to Brittany. I thought he was looking for the entrance of how to get into the building.
What happened next was completely horrifying.
Next thing I noticed is that he pulls out a gun and starts shooting at Brittany. And I'm like, why is this happening and what's going on? Why is he shooting at her? She's screaming and hollering. Terror is on her face. And then she fell to the ground. After he shot at her and she hit the ground, I didn't hear anything anymore. I thought maybe she was dead.
Veronica watched as the shooter started to leave.
He got to the entrance of the parking lot, but then he stopped and then he backed up. He pulls the gun out again and starts shooting at me. And I'm in shock. I turn to run. There was nothing there but my car that I could run behind. But at that moment, I just wanted to get away. You know, drop everything, get to safety. He fired at least 4 to 6 shots in my direction. Most of them hit the car, but one hit me in my left eye. He never exited the car or anything. He stayed in the car the whole time. And then he took off.
Once she was sure he was gone, Veronica went to Brittany.
I hopped around my car to go check on Brittany. She was screaming and hollering. I grabbed my phone. I called 911.
Veronica gives investigators a description of the shooter.
He said it's a young black man, looked like he's in his 20s. He had on blue gloves when he shot at us.
Police fear if they don't find him soon, there may be more victims. As Veronica and Brittany are transported to the hospital, it's all hands on deck at the police department.
Miami-Dade Dispatch immediately had put out a BOLO, which is be on the lookout for the vehicle and the description of the suspect.
Minutes later, one officer happens to be in the right place at the right time.
A local law enforcement officer spotted the vehicle, the Ford Mustang, and started to follow the vehicle.
Another officer joins behind him. He tries to get the vehicle to stop, but the suspected shooter suddenly takes off, doing over 80 miles per hour in a 35-mile-per-hour zone.
And there was a pursuit through the Miami Lakes area.
Luckily, it doesn't last long.
He runs a red light and then quickly loses control of the car and crashes into a tree. The driver takes off on foot. Officers chase after him on foot. They eventually catch up to him and tackle him to the ground. As he's being cuffed, he states, "Damn, I messed up."
Officers identify the man as 26-year-old Andrew Seabrooks and take him into custody.
He was found to have a lengthy criminal history and had recently actually got out of state prison.
They search the car and they find the 9mm gun that was used in the shooting and blue latex gloves.
But why would he shoot at the two women in broad daylight? Detectives put Seabrooks in the hot seat to find out.
He adamantly denied being the shooter. Seabrooks told the detectives that the reason he fled was he had a suspended license.
Despite Andrew's claims of innocence, he racks up 8 charges, including aggravated battery with a deadly weapon and fleeing and eluding.
So detectives, they know who did the shooting, but they don't know why.
Until they get an unexpected call that changes everything.
I immediately knew that this was not a random act of violence.
On September 1st, 2015, just minutes after 21-year-old Brittany Payton and 54-year-old Veronica Moss were shot, Miami-Dade police have caught the perpetrator after a high-speed chase.
Andrew Seabrooks was arrested and identified as the shooter, and he adamantly denied being the shooter.
In search of answers, detectives head to the hospital, hoping to speak with the victims of the morning's shooting.
I was upset, but I was okay because I was alive. That was the main thing. I have my life, and I knew I would live to see another day.
Brittany sustained significant injuries, had multiple gunshot wounds, and ultimately had to have her femur replaced with a metal rod.
Investigators briefly speak with both women as they enter the early stages of recovery.
At the time, there was no information about Andrew Seabrooks or why this was happening, and the women were shown his picture and they did not know him.
Later that same day, detectives get a surprising call from prosecutor Danielle Dudai. She works for neighboring Broward County and just learned of the shooting.
I immediately knew that this was not a random act of violence. We're telling Dade County, yes, it looks random to you. I'm telling you this is connected to our case.
Danielle went on to tell me how one of the victims in this case was a victim of a sexual battery that she was prosecuting, Brittany Payton.
We shared immediately with Miami Lakes PD that more than likely a man named Samuel Preval was behind all of this.
36-year-old Samuel Preval was a persuasive man.
He was very manipulative, and he could make people believe a lot of things.
He did have a criminal history committing various crimes like tax fraud.
He also claimed to be a spiritual man.
Samuel Preval was involved heavily in the practice of voodoo.
It was a tool for him to aid in manipulation of others.
That's likely how he found his way into Brittany's mother's life.
They would say that they're married, but they weren't married because he was saying that just to make her happy.
Then, in July 2009, when Brittany was just 15 years old, Samuel sexually assaulted her.
Her grandmother knew something was up, and that's when Brittany shares with her grandmother that she had been raped by her mother's boyfriend.
Brittany's grandmother immediately called police.
Brittany gets a rape kit done, and they're able to obtain the DNA of Samuel Preval.
In March of 2010, Samuel Preval was ultimately arrested on multiple counts of lewd and lascivious battery against Brittany Payton.
Danielle explains to detectives that after multiple postponements, Samuel Praval's trial was set to begin in May 2014, just over 4 years after his arrest.
Brittany, she was set to testify against him at trial.
But Danielle says Samuel wasn't going down without a fight.
Mr. Praval had tried to have Brittany murdered.
Roughly 2 months before the trial, Samuel was out on bond.
He meets a guy named Bullet. Ultimately, the conversation devolves into Praval looking for someone to murder the key witness against him in his rape case, which is Brittany Payton. Bullet explains that he has someone and he will have that person reach out to Mr. Praval. Bullet turns out to be a confidential informant. He reaches out to the law enforcement agency with whom he's working. We are able to insert an undercover officer into this situation.
In March 2014, an undercover officer posing as a hitman met with Samuel Praval.
At that time, he had told the hitman that he wanted to make it look like a robbery that had gone bad.
On April 8, 2014, Samuel Praval was arrested and charged with victim tampering and criminal solicitation to commit first-degree premeditated murder.
Because of the connection between this and the existing rape case, we added those new charges to the existing case so that they would all be handled together.
Danielle tells detectives that Samuel still didn't stop there.
About a year later, in April of 2015, Brittany reported to us that she was approached by 2 women.
While Brittany was working at one of her retail jobs, 2 unidentified women came up to her.
They had a proposition for her that related to the pending case that she had against Mr. Praval.
They said, hey, if you don't go forward with, testifying against Samuel, then, we'll get you an apartment, furnished apartment, we'll pay for it and take care of you.
Brittany wasn't tempted by the bribe and declined that offer.
We were set for trial at the end of September 22nd. I knew in my gut that this was him.
Law enforcement needs to find a connection between Samuel Praval and the shooter, Andrew Seabrooks.
Seabrooks is not connected to Brittany. He's not connected to Veronica. And he's not cooperating with them.
Miami-Dade Police and the Broward County State Attorney's Office joined forces.
Immediately, my team mobilized, our investigators mobilized. I'm calling every person I know, and we start pulling these records.
Their hard work soon pays off.
Seabrooks not only had the opportunity to communicate with Mr. Praval, but was doing Mr. Praval's bidding.
And he wasn't the only one. September 1st, 2015. Detectives are trying to find the link between Samuel Praval and Andrew Seabrooks.
I was prosecuting Samuel Praval for the rape of Brittany Payton, and in 2014, when that case was set for trial, Mr. Praval had tried to have Brittany murdered at that time.
Now they believe he must have hired Andrew Seabrooks in this last attempt.
I contacted personnel at the Broward County Jail and determined that actually Andrew Seabrooks was in the same, what's known as a pod area from like 2012 to 2014.
Andrew Seabrooks and Samuel Praval had been in the same cell block, and we were able to review the movement of both Mr. Seabrooks and Mr. Praval to see exactly the overlap in time of when they were together.
We found that Seabrooks was released from prison towards the end of July of 2015.
Since Samuel is in jail, investigators believe he had to have communicated somehow with Seabrooks to set up the hit on Brittany 2 months later.
He was actually on a restriction from the use of the phones. However, investigators came to find out that Mr. Preval would often sit on the phone for 8 hours a day, utilizing other inmates' PIN codes for their phone access in order to make phone calls.
I had Andrew Seabrooks' phone numbers, but there was no phone numbers shown on the jail calls directly to him.
But there are hundreds of calls between Samuel and 2 other people.
Despite being incarcerated for well over a year, Preval maintained relationships with women on the outside. One of those women was Brittany's mother, and there were 2 other women, Felicia St. Clair and Mitzi Papillon.
Investigators learned that 26-year-old Felicia St. Clair is a young college student.
Felicia had a very minor criminal history. Mitzi didn't have any criminal history.
Mitzi Papillon is a 33-year-old successful professional.
When Mitzi came into the picture, we did do some background investigation on her to learn a little bit more about who this person was in Mr. Preval's orbit.
Mitzi Papillon was born February 15th, 1982, in Brooklyn, New York.
Mitzi Papillon comes from a very good family. Mitzi Papillon's father is a doctor. They were loving, they were educated, they were affluent.
Eventually, her family made their way down to Broward County, Florida. After high school, Mitzi followed in her family's footsteps and furthered her education.
She had every opportunity, and she took advantage of it. She wasn't spoiled. She went to school. She worked hard.
She had a successful business as a speech pathologist. She presented very well, very educated.
By 2010, Mitzi was a single mother and a successful businesswoman. But something was still missing.
She doesn't have that love in her life from a man. She doesn't have someone to share her love with.
Soon, a man walked into her life who seemed to fit the bill.
She met Samuel Preval at church, and he was charming and good-looking. He was a practitioner of voodoo, and that was something that they appeared to both be interested in.
Mitzi became enchanted by Samuel. But Mitzi wasn't the only woman in Samuel's life. He had relationships with 2 other women, Brittany's mother, Kendra, and Felicia St. Clair.
And these women all knew about each other. In fact, at one point in time, they were all living under the same house together.
But now her man is sitting in jail, ready to face serious charges. On September 3rd, the Broward County State Attorney's Office is tasked with dissecting the audio files from Samuel's phone calls to find proof that he hired Andrew Seabrooks to kill Brittany Payton.
Those phone calls were made primarily to his girlfriends, Mitzi Papillon and Felicia St. Clair.
I could hear on the various jail calls Mitzi and Felicia, and he would instruct them to do various things that he needed as far as stuff for his commissary and everything like that that he needs to help him have a better life while he's in jail.
But investigators have no idea how deep their devotion really goes.
These women did not hesitate at that time to do whatever he asked.
September 4th, 2015. Broward County investigators are reviewing jail calls made by Samuel Preval, hoping to find evidence that proves he had Andrew Seabrooks attempt to kill Brittany Payton.
We came across these jail calls where Mitzi Papillon or Felicia St. Clair were on the phone with Mr. Preval. Mitzi became a presence in the courtroom after the 2014 murder for hire. She was constantly filing papers for him in his court cases, filing lawsuits on his behalf, filing complaints. Several months later, Felicia St. Clair would also join her, and together the two women were constantly by Mr. Preval's side with this sort of unbending loyalty, this absolute devotion to this man.
They both were committed to doing whatever it took to keep him from going away to prison for a very long time. They didn't believe the allegations against him. They believed that Brittany was lying, and they were willing to go the extra mile for him.
While listening through the calls, investigator Bill Walker finally uncovers the lead they've been searching for.
Several different times they called Andrew Seabrooks on a three-way.
The communications began 2 days after Seabrooks was released from prison in July. In the calls, it's obvious the foursome were well aware they were being recorded.
The conversations were in code. They were talking about things about making a record and, you know, the lyrics of the song and other things like that.
Those conversations detailed an attempt and plan to murder Brittany Payton.
There wasn't a direct conversation saying, hey, you go kill Brittany, I'm gonna give you money.
But he kept harping on Seabrooks about the lifestyle they're gonna live. He would just pump them up the lifestyle because they would have these wild sex parties and all that type of stuff. And, you know, his life's gonna change once he gets out. He'll live the good life, meaning Seabrooks.
When Seabrooks starts sounding hesitant about going through with the plan, Samuel sweetens the deal.
He said that he has 90 racks that he has access to once he gets out of jail. And I later found out that that was referring to $90,000. He's going to take care of them, and everything will change once the charges are dropped.
Through the calls, it becomes clear to investigators that Mitzi and Felicia understood exactly what was going on.
On July 26th, on a phone call between Preval and Mitzi, she advised him that Seabrooks promised her that he's going to do what he has to do to get her man home.
On the calls with him, she was very much in control, and she was very assertive. I think in part because she was like ingraining herself as someone that he needs. Like, you need me more than you realize.
Investigators then uncovered that Samuel had a much stronger hold on his women than anyone could have ever imagined.
We began to realize the significance of the role that Mitzi and Felicia played in this attempted murder of Brittany Payton.
I remember one phone call where Mitzi even said, Felicia's going to get us caught, going to get us in trouble.
Autumn 2015, Broward County, Florida. Investigators reviewing Samuel Preval's jail calls discover that his girlfriends may have also been involved in the attempted murder of Brittany Payton and Veronica Moss.
On July 27th, there was a phone call between Preval, Papillon, and Seabrooks, which were believed that they were talking about the attempted murder on the victim, Brittany. He used a couple times the reference to like music, where that music is located and the best time of the day to go there and the tracks or whatever, basically referring to where the victims would probably be at any given time or a certain date and time.
Realizing that Mitzi and Felicia were more involved, detectives pull phone records on their personal lines. They uncover extensive contact between the women and Andrew Seabrooks weeks before the attempted murder.
Andrew Seabrooks and Felicia St. Clair exchanged 35 phone calls. There were also 15 calls between Andrew Seabrooks and Mitzi Papillon.
On August 31st, which was the day before the shooting, there was text messages that showed that Felicia was supposed to pick up Seabrooks. 5 hours before the shooting, Felicia had texted Seabrooks that she is here.
For 3 months, each piece of data investigators go through continues to build their case against the 4 suspects. They also show Brittany a photo of Mitzi and Felicia, and she confirms that they are the 2 women who confronted her at her job.
These are like pieces of the puzzle that by themselves maybe wouldn't mean anything, but when you put them all together, it paints a pretty good picture.
On December 13th, 2015, investigators arrest Mitzi Papillon and Felicia St. Clair for conspiracy to commit murder and 2 counts of tampering with a victim. They also add new charges to Samuel Preval: conspiracy to commit murder, tampering with a victim, and attempted murder. To help solidify their case, in the weeks that follow, detectives pay Andrew Seabrooks a visit.
He was a little bit cagey, but ultimately he knew that he was looking at a lot of time in prison. He was very willing at that point to cooperate.
Seabrooks admits that Samuel Preval solicited him to kill Brittany, and his girlfriends both helped facilitate.
He told investigators that it was Felicia who gave him the gun, which was the 9mm used in the shooting, and also the Ford Mustang.
Mitzi also took Andrew Seabrooks to Brittany's house and provided a photograph of her. Both women told Andrew to remove the battery from his cell phone so that he couldn't be tracked.
Andrew Seabrooks agrees to plead guilty to firearm charges, fleeing from police, driving with a suspended license, and 2 counts of attempted murder. For his cooperation, he receives a reduced prison sentence of 25 years and 5 years of probation. But he isn't the only one offered a deal.
I advised Felicia's attorney and Mitzi's attorney that I would be willing to talk with one of their clients. So whoever wanted the deal would have to come forward first. And ultimately that was Felicia. She outlined Mr. Preval's scheme, but also the significant involvement of Mitzi Papillon in each step of the way of that plot.
Andrew Seabrooks and Felicia agreed to testify against Mitzi and Preval. Felicia St. Clair received 10 years of probation.
She knew her actions were wrong. I'm glad she turned state evidence, but I feel that she should have served some time also, because she's just as guilty as Mr. Preval, Miss Papillon, and Mr. Andrew Seabrooks.
All eyes are now on Samuel Preval and Mitzi Papillon. They remain a united front.
Mitzi Papillon, she stood by her man, and both Mitzi and Samuel Preval pleaded not guilty for these charges.
But will she stick by his side to the end? Summer 2018. Broward County, Florida. Prosecutors are preparing for trial against Samuel Preval and his girlfriend, Mitzi Papillon.
Mr. Preval was being held in Broward County without bond pending his trial. He was being held on multiple charges.
The state decides to start with the September 1st, 2015 attempted murders of Brittany Payton and Veronica Moss.
Prosecutors believe that after Preval ended up in jail on the sexual assault case and the attempted murder of Brittany, he knew that he was going to prison for a very long time.
He was not about to let that happen.
While incarcerated, Samuel Preval knew his cellmate Andrew Seabrooks was about to be released. Samuel Preval offered him a lot of money if he finished Brittany off. Seabrooks agreed, and Preval had Mitzi help Seabrook coordinate the hit with Felicia's help.
He was able to keep a grip on many people, including Andrew Seabrooks, but mostly on the women in his life.
Andrew and Felicia both testify against Samuel, sealing his fate.
On July 2nd, 2018, a jury in Broward County convicted Samuel Preval of all of the crimes associated with the September 1st, 2015 attempted murder of Brittany Payton.
There was no remorse for anything and how manipulative he was with everything.
He is sentenced to life in prison. Less than a year later, he faces more charges.
On May 10th, 2019, Samuel Preval was convicted of the rape against Brittany Payton and the 2014 attempted murder of Brittany Payton. On May 13th, 2019, he was then sentenced to consecutive life sentences for those crimes. Brittany Payton is an extremely strong woman. She has been through so much. When Preval was finally convicted and, Mitzi was in jail, I think there was a level of peace.
Since her arrest in 2015, Mitzi Papillon stood by Samuel Preval and maintained her innocence as her lawyer prepared for her defense.
I don't know how Preval was able to get to Mitzi. She was so smart. There was something fragile there. I think she was really scared of him and that she was under this dominion and control, and we were going to use that at trial.
Then, a major pivot occurs in the summer of 2019.
So after Felicia St. Clair cooperated and got her deal, after Seabrooks cooperated and got his deal, after Preval was convicted of all of the crimes against him, Mitzi then realized she had nowhere else to go.
On August 1st, 2019, Mitzi enters a no-contest plea. She uses the same defense strategy at her sentencing.
Mitzi put on evidence, testimony, to try to persuade the court that she was controlled by Mr. Preval and that she was somehow under duress. But this was easy to be dismissed based on the evidence that we had collected over the years. She was always by his side. She was doing so much work on her own volition. She was not under his control.
Despite her new claims, Mitzi is sentenced to 12 years.
Ms. Papillon should have been given a longer sentence. A little more than 12 years is not enough for what you've caused, not only in Miss Brittany's life, but in my life and everybody else that was affected by what you did.
Mitzi's release date is May 11th, 2026.
This presents an opportunity for her to turn a new page. Only time will tell, has she learned her lessons, and will she make different choices in life?
But her loyalty to Samuel Preval is still puzzling to some.
I just couldn't understand why a woman like this, beautiful, smart, educated, good family, would be involved with a guy like this, and then trying to get her to kill a girl. It was shocking. It's still shocking, and I'll never forget it. Never.
A hollow heart can make dangerous bargains in the name of love, leading you down paths much darker than the feeling of loneliness.